Listen, I look at some of the YouTube videos today and it's like stupid dungeon master mistakes or things to never do. And I'm like, I've done all of them. Welcome back to EpicSolo, where I play Dungeons & Dragons solo, taking on the role of both the Dungeon Master and the player while building an epic fantasy setting right here on the channel. So if this is your first time checking out the channel, thank you for being here. I hope you like what you see. If you do, hit the like button and subscribe. If you've already done that, you know who you are. Thank you. I appreciate you. Let's have some fun. So it is good to be back. We're going to break the third wall tonight. It's been a few episodes. All right, we've got a great episode planned for you in which we will cover when to roll and when to make it up. We're going to talk about Yinslyaersunar, the Green Dragon. We're going to talk about Alistar the Recluse and the Ruins of Zangari Island. And we also have a very special guest in our last segment, so you're going to want to stick around for that. That's right, the Golden Bear is here to chat about all things D&D, EpicSolo, and the War of the Island Nations, which is an EpicSolo multiplayer at the table campaign that will take place in our setting. You're going to want to pay attention to the events of Season 1 because it's going to culminate with the beginning of that campaign, which we will feature on this channel in a separate series starting in February. If you like what you see on this channel and you're interested in more content based off of D&D sessions, and why wouldn't you be, then check out Chad Venture's Animated Stories. He's got some amazing animatics going on over there, and he's been very supportive of our channel, and we want to do the same for him. So go check it out. Link in the description and at the end of this video. All right, so we're going to get into our first topic, but first, we're going to roll a clip from our 6th episode, The Prisoners, in which Malfac prophesizes that the island is perilous and wrought with dangers. Roll the clip. Should you leave this foul place, for the island is perilous and wrought with dangers that I suspect you may have overlooked. Oh, Malfac, he's so cool. He's so dreamy. He's really not. Oh, Malfac. I didn't just... I'm sorry. That's not why I played the clip, though. The reason why I wanted to play that clip was to talk about our second topic tonight, and that is when to roll and when to make it up. And to do that, we are literally, and before you get on me for saying literally, I mean it. We are literally going to take a page out of the Mythic GM Emulator book that addresses when to roll and when to make it up. And so this section starts out right away by saying, should you use the fate chart to answer every question? And the answer is no, please. And so let's address the elephant or the dragon in the room. Where'd the dragon come from, dude? Like, there's all of a sudden there's a dragon? Yes, there is a dragon. Well, what's the context and the logic behind that? Okay, let's get into it here. It takes a little bit of mental gymnastics, but I think it's worth addressing. The name of the game is Dungeons and Dragons. And so we haven't been in any dungeons yet. Was it time for a dragon? Absolutely. And here's why. About 2 years ago, I started painting that dragon, and it has yet to hit the table. And that, my friends, is the only reason you need. If you have something cool on your shelf or in your head that you want to put on the table, you do it. You don't need the dice to tell you everything. You need the dice to tell you what you don't know. And as the DM, the player, and the producer of this fine content that you are viewing, I reserve the right to do whatever I want, and so do you in your games. You don't need any other reason than to go down to your friendly local gaming store, which I highly recommend, find something cool to paint that gets you pumped about playing the game, and find a way. If you can find a way with the context and the logic and the backstory to put it in the game, all the better. We're going to talk about that next, making those connections. Now, I just got done explaining that you don't need a reason. You don't need the dice. If it seems cool, if it sounds fun, throw it on the table, make it happen. But there is more to it, and I want to talk about 3 elements that inspired the decision to put Yinslyaersunar, our adult green dragon, in our game. So the first element was a question that we asked of the fate chart back in episode 6. What have Giselle and Wilhelm come to the island in search of? And after rolling on the fate chart, we determined the action ambush in the subject status quo. We interpreted that to mean that Giselle has come to the island in search of a magical robe rumored to grant its wearer great influence and affluence amongst her peers. Okay, great. So where does she find this rope? This is where you don't have to keep asking questions. You certainly can, but this is where my mind said, aha, I've got it. Let's go with it. And so what we went with was that there was an old reclusive wizard named Alistar, because the name just popped into my head. Didn't even need to roll for it. And now we have this new element, this new thread of our story, of our adventure that was derived from asking a non-related question. That is the beauty of this system. And when you get those inspirational moments, go with them. It is great for your story. It's great for your adventure. The second element has to do with the clip that we showed earlier. It was the now ominous and foreboding statement that at the time was seemingly unrelated, but Malphak was trying to convince Giselle and Wilhelm to let him join them on their quest. And in trying to convince them, he said, "The island is perilous and wrought with dangers that I suspect you may have underestimated," or something of that nature. But that statement got me thinking about what happened when the third element came into play. The third element occurs in the scene in which our party, Malphak, Giselle, and Wilhelm, are on their way to Alistar's manor, and they are ambushed by Enid, Simon, and Roland, which we find out their names later. During that scene, Wilhelm and Giselle split. They leave Malphak high and dry. And why wouldn't they? That's totally in character. They had the spells prepared. They're not trying to fight this fight that they might not be able to win. Let's throw Malphak to the dogs. Let's let him deal with it. And so they split. Now, when they split, all three of our elements come together to create this awesome moment in our adventure. The culmination of our three elements: 1, Alistar; 2, the island is perilous and wrought with danger; and 3, Giselle and Wilhelm splitting from the party, in which they have now found themselves in the perilous and dangerous domain of Alistar's arch-nemesis, the Green Dragon, Yinslyaersunar. Boom, there you go. The culmination of these three story elements, along with the fact that I just had a dragon I wanted to put on the table. But again, if you can make it work within the context of the story, even better. So there you go. Whew. Wipe your brow, fill up your coffee. Thank you for participating in my mental gymnastics meet. And I really hope you can take some of these things and use them in your own adventures, and also better understand what we're doing here at EpicSolo. Again, the dice don't need to tell you everything. They just need to tell you what you don't already know. And yes, I am fully aware that there's a certain level of Charlie Day in the mailroom trying to figure out what's going on with Pepe Sylvia, man. And you're trying to connect the dots and put all these things together. And although it's not full-on tinfoil hats, there's definitely a fair amount of red string and corkboard and probably way too much coffee. So let's talk about Yinslyaersunar, the Green Dragon, Alistar the Recluse's arch-nemesis. And one of the greatest things about the internet is that if you have a question about a translation from Common to Draconic, there's probably a website out there that can do it for you. Fascinating stuff. Well, guess what? There is. And so I started experimenting with different translations until I found one that made sense given the context, and also something that just sounded cool. And so we settled on Yinslyaersunar, which translates to Jungle Tyrant. Now there's some great information in the Dungeon Master's Guide for villains, rolling for their motivations and tactics, etc. But there's also a lot that we, or I, already know about our dragon. And so going with the theme of letting the dice tell us only what we need to know, we're going to ask the fate chart a question that I don't have an answer for. And so now we know that Yinslyaersunar desperately wants to enter the ruins that Alistar the Recluse has taken residence in, but we don't know why. And so let's ask the fate chart. Why does Yinslyaersunar want to enter the ruins? So first we're going to roll for event meaning action. Dessert. As in like cake or cupcakes? Probably not. All right, and next we're going to roll for event meaning subject. Enemies. Okay, so we have action, dessert, subject, enemies. This is a pretty straightforward interpretation. All right, so our interpretation is this. Yinslyaersunar wants to enter the ruins to make delicious desserts for his enemies. That's right. He wants to set up shop and start making artisan cupcakes. No, I'm just kidding. This is our interpretation. Yinslyaersunar wants to enter the ruins to desert his enemies. Very simple stuff. Yes, he is the jungle tyrant, but wouldn't you want to have a nice place where you could go? And I'm sure it's pretty interesting in there. So super simple explanation. I love it. It works. Let's go with it. This is why the system's so awesome, because right now I have another burning question. Who are Yinslyaersunar's enemies? Oh, it's awesome, but I'm not going to answer it right now. I need some time to think about this one. I might not ask that question. I might not have to. Awesome stuff. Let's move on. Let's talk about Alistar the Recluse. So Alistar's origin story is quite a bit different. He's definitely the culmination of every kooky old wizard character I've ever created, but he didn't exist by name or as an idea until we rolled to ask why Giselle and Wilhelm had come to the island. Now, I did have a miniature that I'd been meaning to paint for many years, and it gave me a great reason. And so there he is, he's in the game. Now, we're going to take the same approach because there's a lot of information I already know about our friendly old hospitable wizard, including why he has relocated to the ruins of Zangari Island. I know exactly what he is doing there, but those are secrets, not only for me, the DM, but also for Mr. Solo, the producer of the quality content that you are viewing. And so I am forbidden from revealing those secrets to you, the viewer, at this time. But what I don't know, and the question that we'll be asking the fate chart is this. Why did Alistar leave Reyes? Now, before we ask the question, let's review some context. In episode 5, Enid said that before Alistar the Recluse relocated to the island, he was known as Alistar the Wise, and he served as an advisor to the politicians of the Republic of Thrace. We also know that he just up and left one day rather abruptly. Perhaps it was his interest in the ruins, or perhaps it was something else, and so we don't know. And so let's turn to the fate chart and ask our question. Why did Alistar leave Thrace? All right, so let's roll for our event meaning action. Proceedings. And now our event meaning subject. Reality. Before we go any further, I just have to give Tana Pigeon, the author of the Mythic GM emulator, all the kudos in the realms. It's just such an elegant system. I hope someday you get to see my silly little channel, and I hope that you smile because you've done such an amazing job. I love this interpretation. Let's get into it. Our interpretation is this. Alistar left Thrace because he believed the reality of the current administration's proceedings would plunge the island nations into war. Now, at this point, you might be saying to yourself, that's a rather elaborate interpretation. But if you've been following along, not at all. It's all based on the context of all that has transpired up until this point, and I love it. What a great culmination as we head into episode 9. All right, so the next topic is the Ruins of Zangari Island. And here's the deal. We've already covered them quite a bit. We figured out in this episode what Yinslyaersunar's motivation is for wanting to get into the ruins. He wants to desert his enemies. I'm sure there's other intriguing things and reasons he wants to be there, but that is his main motivation. We also know that Alistar didn't leave Thrace just to come to the ruins. That's his destination. What is he doing there? And as of right now, I believe that's for Mr. Solo to know, and for you and Malfac and everybody else to find out. So we're going to leave it there. There's our big cliffhanger. So at this time, I would like to introduce EpicSolo's first guest, a very special guest, one of my oldest and dearest friends, and one of the greatest dungeon masters and adventuring partners I have ever had the pleasure of knowing, the one and only, the Golden Bear. Welcome to the channel.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Very excited to be here. Yeah, I think there might be a few players out there that may not agree with your assessment of my DMing abilities, but, you know, for those who like a nice one and done, really fun one shot about whatever happens to be going through my brain or whatever TV show or movie I just watched, how I can turn it into a D&D experience, you're right up my alley then.
That is the truth. The Golden Bear is definitely the king of the one-shot campaign. Hands down, absolutely. The Golden Bear and I have been gaming together playing Dungeons and Dragons specifically now for almost 25 years.
Yeah.
25 years off and on throughout the years. But the first time that the dice hit the table would have been about 25 years ago for both of us in the same session. Tell me about the first time that you ever played D&D, the Dungeons and the Dragons.
Ooh, well, man, this was back in college at the University of Minnesota. An interesting question I got from a good friend of ours came up to me, and he just said, hey, in a really sheepish way, we're sitting on the patio, enjoying the summer afternoon somewhere. And he just mentioned, like, I got a question for you. And it was just like this really odd way that he approached it. He was super nervous. It was just so funny. And he was like, do you want to come play D&D with me and Mr. Solo?
So mind you, this is about 20 years after the satanic panic of D&D. At this point, he's just, socially ashamed, right?
Yes.
This is around the turn of the century. And by the turn of the century, I mean around 2000. He was socially ashamed, approaching you in some dark corner. Hey, you want to play this seedy game?
Yeah. Like, we pretend to be really cool people in, like the real world, but in our hearts, we're super nerdy and dorky. And that isn't really cool yet. Like, it's going to be in about 15 years. And when we'll tell stories like this and people will be like, man, you guys were OG nerds.
Hey, it's been working for me for decades. All right. That's why I have to go by the name Mr. Solo. And so we'll see. If Malfac does survive season 1, though, I am going to put my ugly mug up on the camera. And we won't be so secretive, but it's been fun. It's kind of fun right now,
Absolutely.
Right? As I coined the phrase, it is graphical radio. That's what we try to do here. There's a little bit of anonymity just to keep the suspense and the surprise. We're cheeky that way. Give us a break. But yes, if Malfac does survive season 1, I'll put my ugly mug up on the screen. Fantastic. Because there's not enough ugly mugs up on the screen, begging for clicks, every hour here. The sky is indeed falling, right? You would think so. There actually is some pretty nefarious stuff going on with Wizards of the Coast and D&D, but you know what? This is an entertainment channel. I am not trying to get into all that. We're just playing some games. I've lived through many editions. We'll see what happens. At its core, it doesn't matter if it's Pathfinder or D&D or you're playing a clone or, OSR, whatever you're doing, you're playing a role-playing game. Your community storytelling, you're building these worlds together. That's what's really important.
Absolutely.
Obviously, when it comes a brand, there's going to be some of that, the infighting amongst what's cool, what isn't, what's acceptable, etc. Give me all your money, the highway robbery. And again, I'm trying to provide some entertainment here. Keep it simple. Let's get back to basics here, regardless of the system. And so hopefully we're doing that. Hopefully people are having fun. Like I said, not to not shine light on things that are important and serious. And you've got a community right now that's about to have another renaissance, I think, because of what's happening. That's all I'll say about that. But I do want to remind our viewers of one story that I have to share about the first time I found out
improved evasion.
I was impressed. So the first time, this is a Malfac circa 2000, and he found out he had just recently learned about Fireball. Right. And was shooting those fireballs everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody in the party was like, picking their teeth with their short sword going, you got a fireball? Like, take care of these guys. And Malfac's like, no problem here. And so I learned the hard way. Was
it freaky? Did it feel freaky?
It was freaky. It was very freaky. And so it took me a long time to get Malfac's voice. It's been a long time in the running, but it was freaky back then. He had wandered into, with one of his companions, he had wandered into the hideout, the home base for a group of thieves, a group of rogues. And the Golden Bear, in DMing one of his classic one-shots, decides to fill, the last room of this dungeon with a bunch of rogues and one extremely high-level rogue. And so Malfac's like...
It was a jester. If I was
a
thinking
jester,
about this
yes.
more. Because that's what our buddy had, a bunch of he had those really sweet figs that he got from his uncle.
The old school Ral Parthas. Yes.
Old school, really well painted jester that I was super into, and I really just wanted. So I based this entire thing on him. First time I'd ever DM'd. I'd been playing D&D for maybe 4 or 5 months at this point.
Sure.
At all, And so I had only played a rogue, so I only did rogues in this room because that's all I knew how. I knew how to move them around. I knew how to get flanks. I knew how to, get as much sneak damage as possible.
And so Malfac goes in there with the bat guano ready to go. He's ready to go.
Bat guano and sulfur.
Yep. He's about to drop some fireballs, and he finds out very quick about improved evasion and starts to get quite frustrated as these rogues are just dancing around, jumping around with their bells on their little jester hats. And so the Golden Bear definitely stuck a wrench in Malfac's machine on that session. And he's been doing it ever since. And I love him for it, because that's what we're supposed to do. That was one of the greatest sessions ever. There's so many sessions throughout the years. I remember, mentioned it earlier, the Golden Bear is the king of the one-off. And so,
what was the one we were doing? I think it was me, you, and Big V were playing, and you'd given us an NPC cleric.
Oh, yes.
And he was able to, and he cast whole person.
That was on Roll20. Listen, I look at some of the YouTube videos today, and it's like stupid Dungeon Master mistakes or things to never do. And I'm like, I've done all of them. I have made every mistake there is. And so I had given this party an NPC cleric, right? And I didn't realize it, but this NPC cleric had a scroll of a hold person. Okay. And we like to roll hard. We don't like to fudge things. We like to put the dice out on the table, and we try to play by the rules. Rules is written. And with that comes interesting situations. And so sure enough, they have this NPC cleric, and they come to the boss fight, the final room. And I've set this thing up, and I've been working on this for weeks. And here this NPC cleric decides to take out this scroll. And they're fighting for their lives. This is all fair. All is fair in combat. Yeah. And so this NPC cleric ends up taking out this scroll of hold person and freezing my boss. And now I could have just said, but I'd already set the precedent. Like, you guys know what's happening. I'm going to show you my save roll. And sure enough, fails the save roll, holds the boss, and they just proceed to whack, whack, whack. And I'm just like, fun. Did you guys have fun? But kind of yes, right? I mean, you really took it to the boss at the end. But believe me, I hope, and like with everything else in life, I've made enough mistakes in previous sessions through the last 20 some years to challenge you in this, our final campaign of all time, the one campaign to rule them all until the next one. But I really do hope I've learned some of those mistakes. And I did tell this group, you better come with 2 characters. That's my rule. My house rule is you better have 2 characters rolled up, and don't get too attached to any. You might want to roll with your second character first.
Right. Ooh, yeah.
Because I think that element is important. There is a knock on 5e with death saves and that sort of thing, saving rolls, and it's really hard to die. And we'll find out. Believe me.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Don't worry about it.
We're gonna find out. But that element of my life is in danger, I think, is important, and I try to do that on EpicSolo, and so hopefully we'll do that in the campaign too. But I think that needs to be a necessary element, right? Life is precious. It is important. It does matter,
right?
And so
consequences for doing dumb stuff.
Absolutely. And so hopefully you guys will learn those consequences. I hope to knock all of you on your butts at least one time, right? Did you die? Were you incapacitated, or did you get knocked on your butt, right? And so I hope to knock you on your butt a couple times during the campaign. So the Golden Bear will be joining us for an in-person at the table campaign based in our setting, right now loosely titled The War of the Island Nations, in which we will be chronicling and featuring the events on the channel here starting in February. So Golden Bear, tell us about your player in our upcoming campaign.
So we got Benny Rama coming in. He is, level 1 starting out. He's the rogue, right? He is the impish little fun kender that's just here to cause problems and a little bit of chaos, with a smile on his face and a skip in his step. And he is just a fun little guy that's running around in these islands. He might have an agenda of his own. He might have some ideas of what he's looking for. A little bit about his background. He hails from Landolin, and he is a member of one of the older clans that have been kind of at certain points in charge there, but always kind of in the ruling conversations. They're one of the better off groups. And so his family is seen. It's hard to say that he would be a noble, but if you had to put some sort of a title on him, his family would definitely be one of the more prominent families in that community. And so, his family's known. He is known as an individual to a few folks, but really when he's out and about, on the islands, he is really just there, and not a lot of close acquaintances of his are out there. So he's out having fun, having a good time, putting in the work, doing what all the Landolins and the Kenders are up to. But really, as a member of that kind of upper levels of society, if you will, really kind of has that expectation and really enjoys the adoration of the common folk a little bit. He's a well-dressed young gentleman, ready to just take on the world and prove that he can get out there and do it on his own without his family, while still at the same time, relying on that family name to get him into places and to make sure that some of the other Kender running around are good buddies with him and, kind of looking up to him as well. So
I like it. So we got, so he is his background would be that of a noble. And so he does use his surname, the Rama name, to get in and out of places that some other Landolins, some other Kenders. So one thing about our setting, yes, we have Kender. We do. So Kender is a species, a race in our setting, and they are referred to in the island nations as Landolians or Landolins or Linnies or Landos. There's a lot of names for them, but they are synonymous with Kender. And so let's talk about traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws, and how that fits into your character in our campaign setting.
So his personality traits, coming in, he'd take great pains to always look his best and follow the latest fashions as he's out there. And, the common folk really love him. He is a great representative of his family. And, that family itself is known as a really gregarious and helpful and fun group. And so he really plays into that and plays that side of his personality and his relationships up. But he also feels like he's an independent person. He's not there, while he is kind of leaning in and having a little fun with that. He is trying to handle himself on his own and trying not to be coddled too much by the family. Maybe that's why he's out he's not trying to get out from under, maybe the matriarchy or the patriarchy or whichever one we got.
Yes, we will talk about the complex social hierarchy and government of Landolin, of Benny Rama's home island here later on in the episode. But yes, it would be, he's very much then in a situation where he's trying to gain his independence. He doesn't want to be, known as just another Rama,
right.
Making his way. He really wants to make a name for himself. So I love it.
Exactly. And then the last part, there might be some deep, dark secret he's harboring.
Oh, aren't there always?
We'll see what happens there and how that all plays out as the adventure unfolds.
And so Benny Rama's flaw is that, and I can say this. Can I say this? I think I can say. I can say this. I'm not. I don't know what his flaw is, but it says here in his character sheet that he does hide a truly scandalous secret that could ruin his family forever. Is that true?
That is true.
Wow. Okay.
That's true. Yes.
All right. And so you don't want to just give those secrets away for free. We're going to find out what that is.
No. Yeah. That's you got to tune in.
I like it. Yeah. See, there we go. Yep. So tune in February.
It's a good one though. Don't get me wrong. It is. I've been thinking about this for a while. So I'm super jazzed and really excited to see how we can kind of play this one out and string it along for a little bit. Not too long. This isn't going to be a will they, won't they for 6 seasons kind of thing. This is a, we'll find this out pretty soon, but not right away. Got to make you work a little bit for it.
I love it. Perfect. And so what's happening right now, this campaign that we're talking about, this planned campaign for the War of the Island Nations, it will coincide. It is in the same setting as the events in EpicSolo. And I do plan on having those events, that culmination, that moment, meet, and so that you can expect, I believe, season 1 of EpicSolo to be ending as the events of the War of the Island Nations and our in-person tabletop campaign begin. And so I have all sorts of exciting secrets for you and our other friends at the table come February.
I'm just excited to see if Malfac makes it, because the idea of my little Kender getting to mess with Malfac all over again.
Yes.
It just makes me so happy.
Well, we'll see if this iteration of Malfac can survive. As we know, he right now is rolling for initiative in a combat encounter that features an adult green dragon. And so it's super dicey right now. I'm going to be honest with you. Who knows? We'll have to see what happens. So we talked a little bit about Landolin, where Benny Rama is from. And we talked a little bit earlier about the complexities of their social hierarchy. And one of the reasons why is that this island nation is almost completely inhabited by the Landolins, by the Kender. And so it's an extremely chaotic society in which we're finding out a lot of information about it. For example, we talked about their government and we said it's complicated. And so one of the reasons why is that they don't really have a formal government. There is no king, there is no magistrate, there is no Lord Mayor per se. And so we're trying to figure out how this really interesting, chaotic society fits in. And so we have to look at it from a geopolitical context, meaning how does Landolin fit into the 7 island nations? And we know this much. We know that each of the nations has a seat on the council. Each of these nations is independent. Okay. And so Landolin, as many times as the council needs to meet, at least once a year, they send a representative to the council meetings. And there's a great story that came from that. For a long time, they would send, the island nations would notice, pretty much every time they held a meeting, there would be a new representative from Landolin, a new Kender would show up. And they were starting to get a little frustrated by this because they would have circumstances where 2 of them showed up pretending to be, the same person, until a third showed up. And then they were like, okay, this is getting out of control. And so they devised a mechanism in which they would give whatever the representative the Landolians decided to send, they would give them a coin, okay, a seal with a ward on it created by their wizards. And they would give this to the representative and they would say, if you want a seat at the council, if you want to come back, you need to bring this coin. You need to bring this seal that demonstrates that you are the last representative to show up, because we can't be just, having any Kender show up here and hear about the council's information. I can imagine that they might have other council meetings that don't involve Landolin, and I don't think Landolin really cares. Right?
I think there might be another room. Yeah. This may not be the room where it happens.
But they're still an important and integral nation, and we'll get into that just a little bit. We'll take a look at some of the statistics on the island nation, but some great stories as we start to figure out more about Landolin. And so I love this idea that we have Kender, that we have the Landolin people in our campaign. It's been many, many years. They're a very fascinating, wonderful group of people, and I cannot wait to spend time with Benny Rama. And I might regret that now. We'll see. But looking forward to DMing.
I think, Mr. Solo, I think you will enjoy spending time with Benny Rama. I'm not 100% sure about all the rest of the party, but, they'll have a smile, hopefully. I
have a little bit of information on that, and we'll keep that secret until session 0. But I do hope to have 2 of our other counterpoints here. I know that Big V. I hope I can plan on having him on the channel, and also Chappie. I hope Chappie can show up, tell us a little bit about his character. This is all session 0 stuff. There's no big secrets being revealed. Yeah. We're just generating some general pump for this new campaign. Golden Bear, as always, it's been so much fun. It would only be more fun if we were at the table in person, which we will be very soon.
Absolutely. Well, I am excited to introduce you to Benny Rama a little bit more and get back at the table with you as well, my friend. Thank you again. Great shows. I've been truly enjoying watching all of the epic solos. I am on pins and needles like the rest of the internet community as to how in the world will
so am I
make it out of this. And Willie, who knows? maybe we're all rolling with Giselle and Wilhelm from here on.
They have become a lot of fun to play too, and that's the thing. Don't fall in love with any character, And if you get smoked in one setting, just make another setting, and Balfak. Remember, Balfak could make an appearance. That's Malfak's brother. He's a dentist. He's not very exciting, but we might have to pull him out for the last couple episodes. Anyway, Golden Bear, thank you for showing up, for being our first inaugural guest on EpicSolo. Hopefully not our last, and hopefully not your last time on the program.
Absolutely. Sorry, don't get to say your name.
It's Mr. Solo until the end of season 1.
Gotcha.
We can bleep it out.
Yep.
And I was going to say Captain Solo, but Captain Solo was already taken. And so
I didn't what? No, that's
we don't like to cross our genres here on EpicSolo. Golden Bear, thank you for joining us here on EpicSolo. You are our inaugural guest, and no one can ever take that away from you. And so
absolutely,
whether the channel goes on to be a beacon of hope like Bill and Ted in some distant utopian future where they talk about the gospel of EpicSolo, or whether the channel dies in 6 months because people are getting bored of our shenanigans. Either way, you, sir, have been our first inaugural guest, and we love you for it.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Solo, and you be excellent to one another.
That's right. And you too out there in internet land. So, hey, we'll see you soon. We'll see you in February. All right, that'll wrap up this week's episode of EpicSolo Behind the DM Screen, where we take you behind the DM screen and cover all the intrigues and all the interesting things that make our game work. Special thanks to our special guest, the Golden Bear. What a blast. We're going to have some more guests here on these Behind the DM Screen episodes going forward. Hey, don't forget to check out Chad Venture. I'm going to put a link at the end of this video. And don't forget, you must gather your party before venturing forth, unless you're playing EpicSolo.